Okay, so here we go. We should have YouTube going. That should kick in. Yes, now we're kicking in all the others. Again, this is Christine Bundy on Indiana with the Indiana Assembly, and this is our first Jural Assembly. And we have had our moment of silence. We'll go ahead and go with the Bivens decision. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflicts and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance in today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? If so, you can post your response in the chat. Hearing none for the first response, is there any response to the Bivens decision for the second time? Hearing none for the third and final time, is there any response to the Bivens decision? Hearing, and I don't, from what I can see of chats, I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so furthermore, anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here must fully disclose their presence and purpose now or leave the premises or call. Okay, so I will pass back over. Let me see how this is going to work here for this display. This is it, maybe. Let me minimize this so it's not in their view. Okay. All right, Joe, we should be good now to continue with your discussion.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah. Let's see. Where would you? Well, let me just open up. I typically open up subsequent meetings with any questions, either at the state level or anybody who may be attending the call. Do we have any? Or
so far, I haven't had any questions. I have made sure to include your email in the email going out so that if there were any questions, as well as on the posting info for it and everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So no questions from you either off the top of your head?
Not right at the moment. We've talked already a few times.
Sure. Okay, well, you see me twice on here in the capacity of Peacekeeping Task Force. You can see my hat here. So I can get it in there. So this is what people will. It's just it's a cap, or it says Peacekeeping Task Force on it.
Right.
See that?
Yes, it does work in.
Little Marshals as well.
You got your mini hats, yes.
So it's two hats, at least for now. You know,
for now.
The hat was early on today. The hat changed.
As
long as there's no conflict of interest, then it harmonizes. This
right.
is just for the current lack of participation at the moment for whatever reason. It makes sense, and then it starts to taper off. So anyway, so you see me here both. Well, PKTF, but the screen you see, Christine, that just has my name.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get a screen share to that?
Yes. You should be able to. There we go.
And I'm working two mice. Wow. Okay, it looks good on the screen here. Okay. Right, well, we work with a lot of tools, as you can imagine, and among them are mind maps. Okay, so I'm looking down on one screen as I'm looking up at the other two to confirm what I'm showing you. All right, well, this is a quite an extensive breakout with a lot of windows that open up, so I'll just try to center into the very, very first, because this would fit any, and this does fit any assembly, to include but not limited to the Indiana Assembly. So Christine and the Indiana Assembly, you see yourself right there. Go ahead and place yourself in
Okay.
American State Assembly. All right. Well, we want to try this. This has been a long group effort, a lot of tedious confirmation multiple times over regarding the symbiotic relationship in every direction within each assembly. And there's not a lot here. Again, with anything, the more we become familiar with it, the more it makes sense. But I do want to break out. Well, I'm gonna have to zoom in and zoom out just to get the larger picture, and I'll zoom back in for emphasis. Just try to capture everything here first. All right, this is far enough. What you'll see is kind of a checkerboard, but you'll see the square center. This center section is every American State Assembly in its organic form. To the left are all of your external, or your peacekeepers, I should say, internal and external. Christine, do you recall what was expressed regarding the difference between internal peacekeepers and external peacekeepers?
Well, internal for the peacekeepers, for like our ombudsman to be able to support us on the assembly, within the assembly, and then the external, if the de facto is imposing upon Indians.
Right. Well, your external, what's beautiful, it's a really great dance as far as peacekeeping efforts go, because you do it. They're obviously honorable, they're lawful, they're peaceful. They're recognizable. There's no conflict of interest between the two. There is a checks and balance from the county all the way up to the federation level. So this being the Jural Assembly meeting and transitioning into the militia assembly really helps to continuously focus on what manner of peacekeeping the Americans have for themselves. So yes. Okay, but my map illustrates to the left section of center, we'll zoom in and we'll discuss all of the facets and combinations, relationships between internal and external peacekeeping. Now to the right, you have what's called the peacekeeping task force. So there's the two, at least one of the hats here is different from itself. And one of the three on the left side, on the marshal. We got Tom here. Hi, Tom. That one, and then of course there. Okay. I'm not in the presence of sheriff's uniforms or any of their design features or anything, or any specific militia command or anything regarding first responders, any kind of manner dealing with posse comitatus or anything. So really, I only have anything. All I have is focusing on the marshal and these tasks. But that's why we're here to discuss those details as well. Any questions so far?
No, and I do want to say that this is Tom on Lake County that was able to come in on the call. Welcome, Tom.
Yes, welcome, Tom.
Hello, thank you.
All right, I'm going to zoom back in, and we will, since this is quite busy enough as it is, especially at first glance, we can revisit this mind map as we go. But what you see on the screen, I'll try to share as thoroughly as I can, and then move on. So to look over as if a bird's eye view or an elevated view being that of a summoning authority, or an authority that each subsequent level, and as you go further lower, the more concrete, more foundational that level is. I mean, the assemblies are bottom up, which when you build a home or a structure, it starts with a foundation and it goes up. And any structure, as you know, it needs every aspect of itself, but it starts at the ground level. But we're going to go, for the sake of just expressing the relationship, we'll start at the top. So the Federation of States leads down to the state assemblies. Then from the state assemblies has each county. And then each county has its 4 pillars, just as well as the state. And then within each state pillar function, each county has its state pillar functions regarding Jural Assembly. Okay, so I'm gonna, of course, but it's a little bit tedious trying to balance this out. I mean, even the mind map is a little bit. Hold on. All right, here we go. It's a little bit overwhelming. But let's go ahead and try to prioritize or place each pillar just where they may be. Now, and Tom, feel free to interject at any time. There's no need to hold any questions or comments until the end. But the combination effort to help visualize the relationship, centering each assembly, to the left each internal and external peacekeeper, and then the Federation Creation Peacekeeping Task Force to the right, helping to tie it all together. We started with the Jural Assembly, just simply because it's one of the 4 pillars, but it seems to be the general gathering place or meeting place, especially for discussions, for committee reports, for ideas, for nominations, for elections and whatnot. Okay. Now the very first, if you'll notice at the top, well, this mind map doesn't list that as an emphasis, but this entire mind map, believe it or not, was created primarily for the Jural Assembly. And with the Jural Assembly, as in any assembly, there must be a logical, recognizable state elected, I should say, peacekeeper. And there really can only be one. Internal. Okay, external, you'll have to the immediate left, you'll start to see the relationships, again, between the peacekeepers, internal and external. And then you'll continue just kind of darting back and forth as you get familiar with this mind map, all of the different peacekeepers, internal, external, and then federation level. Okay. But you'll notice also that there is a peacekeeper highlighted in green at each section of each pillar. Zoom in just a little bit closer. Okay, this isn't any particular order necessarily. So we, like I say, we just placed them into where we could, and then mind mapped around. Your business assembly will also have its own marshal of arms. The militia, I jumped down to the militia assembly for a reason. Just want to save the kind of the best for last, I guess. The militia assembly as well. So general assembly, business assembly, militia assembly, no difference in its structure regarding a peacekeeper. However, Steve and Tom, everything seems to happen. I have yet to be convinced otherwise at this point. That everything seems to happen at the Jural Assembly level. I'm significant or profound progress moving forward. If the General Assembly is an assembly where people come together, they discuss things. Well, when they discuss serious things, they hold courts. Am I wrong? They move to prepare themselves properly, lawfully, with education and knowledge and purpose to make change. Okay. Well, the only change that, and I don't want to marginalize any pillar, but the most profound change happens at the Jural Assembly. So when it comes to that recognition, then we move into where is there that peacekeeper within this internal 4 pillars. 1, 2, 3, 4 pillars. Internal. It has its peacekeepers. There are actually 2, but we want to focus on the marshal at arms for now, and then express moving outwards or within the pillars, all of the relationships regarding peace. So this Jural Assembly peacekeeper is your state elected marshal at arms. Your county level Jural Assembly peacekeeper is your county elected marshal at arms, and then they begin to grow from there. You've already, Christine,
Yes.
and Tom, what have you all expressed so far? Where have you realized the most traction within any of your 4 pillars?
Just general right now of just trying to get together, just knowing that there are others out there, that they're not alone.
Mhm. So you're meeting generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Okay. Well, and again, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. All of these pillars have their own unique purpose. All of them will suffice as an assembly or a body politic of American state nationals, American state citizens, U.S. citizens, and some of these, for instance, your General Assembly can entertain U.S. citizens of the United States, so long as they are there benevolently, and if any of them serve any other entity beyond just the common man, they should announce themselves, which is the reason for the business decision, and other assemblies, they're not so much welcome. Business assembly, perhaps militia assembly. These are the kind of other finer details that each assembly works out as they realize them. Jural Assembly, I mean, there's typically no one within the Jural Assembly outside of the assembly, the Indiana Assembly, unless they were their participation within a court matter is asked of them, right? There's no FBI there. What's the purpose? I mean, if they're there, they're there. There's no reason to call them in any other particular manner or capacity unless they're being accused, in all the process, accused of a crime, so on and so forth. So I am not surprised that most people meet in the General Assembly, but if you can agree, or if you can expound on what you have experienced within the General Assembly as not really moving forward, not really moving back, maybe moving back, possibly moving forward, possibly moving left or right, or possibly standing still. A great deal of explanation can come from that by realizing that perhaps, most likely, everything happens and moves forward in every direction from the Jural Assembly. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At this point? Okay. How about you, Tom? Okay. All right.
There was an agreement. He's muted.
Okay. So now let's start I'll move this over just slightly. We want to focus more on the left margins at this point. Perhaps on our subsequent call, we can discuss the peacekeeping task force aspect. But there is a definite relationship between the Jural Assembly and militia assembly. I can give numerous reasons, and I'll give a few now, just a few out of probably 10. But the fact that everybody who would correct their status and stand in both form and substance on any state should be encouraged, and it would behoove them to go from wherever they entered in to the assembly in no particular assembly function or invitation. Maybe an outreach committee that's latched onto or dedicated to the General Assembly. And again, that makes sense. Any General Assembly facilitates newcomers, anybody, everybody. It's still an outreach committee, sending an invitation to through the General Assembly, if that's the case. If that's how Indiana functions, then perfect. But at some point when they do correct their status, it would behoove them to go and see what's happening at the Jural Assembly level. And when they realize that they are kings and queens, they are the ones that affect change on their state and county level. But truly nothing happens beyond that, measurably, I should say, or concretely, unless and until folks begin populating and moving parts and pieces around within their Jural Assembly. Perfect example, anybody who would like to be a sheriff would, after correcting their status, after learning a bit about what that external peacekeeper is, external from the assembly, what that function would be. They would not go to a business assembly meeting. They may soon begin finding out what's taking place within their militias at the state level, because most likely nothing's yet is occurring at the county level. Okay, but surely they would move forward with regarding peace and what can be offered in that capacity. They would migrate over to the Jural Assembly. And yes, this is where people who would choose to be or entertaining the notion of serving as a sheriff would go to the Jural Assembly. And they would sign in, become a member of the jury pool. And it's not that anybody who has corrected their status has to. It's definitely not a prerequisite. It's not something that they need to do. If an American citizen, a U.S. citizen of the United States, corrects their status, now they're in Indiana and the state national, they can sit back and watch things unfold and root with extreme optimism. They do not have to join the jury. So that's the beauty of not compelling anybody to even elect, even be a part of the jury. But the quandary is, if the less that people do participate in their Jural Assembly, the less things actually change. Would you agree, disagree?
I completely agree.
Literally, is the very next step. It is the very next step. So, I mean, I dealt with all 50 states when given the opportunity, and we share the same breakdown with everybody. And if anybody needs to know precisely where to go next, however they entered into their assembly, typically through the General Assembly, they must be encouraged, and with extreme joy, knowing that where would I go next? It's the Jural Assembly. This meeting right now. Okay, so let's continue using the example of a sheriff. Okay, so I'm from. Give me a county. Give me one of your counties.
Lake.
Give me your county.
Lake County.
Lake County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm a neighbor to the south. Let's say I'm up there. I say I moved there and I've been there for 13 months. I'm at Lake County. I found out, I've known about this assembly. I'm from Kentucky, but I moved and I've been there 13, 14 months, whatever. I'm on your county. And I'm already there with bells and whistles. I'm already there, So I'm a Kentuckian. I have already corrected my status, have migrated, and now I have adopted Indiana Lake County as my new home. I would be, whether I knew it or not, which in this case I do know, I would go to the Indiana Jural Assembly, sign in as a member of the jury pool, and then I would put my hat in as not the first man or last man or woman standing on that county, because both of you are from this county.
Tom is.
Okay, well, I would just inquire, or check in with the office, and find out if this county has a sheriff. If there's nobody yet, as an interim, sponsored by the state, recognized by Lake County, whether it's myself or anyone else of an American who's there, and I would start preparing to take on that role. I would front load any education that I would need, follow up with any subsequent education regarding sheriffs. I would bring myself to any committee, in this case a committee of safety or a safety committee, and yes, there are articles written about that. This is what we'll end the conversation with today, if that's okay, regarding the what had happened with Peacekeeping Task Force, 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, regarding this function in particular. Okay. But any committee that it's under the Jural Assembly, it could be a nationwide sheriff's networking, sheriff's network, like the National Sheriff's Association. I would expect to be, hey, is Indiana talking with all of the other sheriffs in any of the other counties? Is there a fire department? Is there fire rescue? Is there any relationship at this moment with the Jural Assembly and the various committee skill sets, trades, and that would be under the militia? Is there any yet relationship? No expectation beyond, just inquiring. The more established, the better. But as long as there's just discussions taking place, I feel more comfortable throwing my hat in the ring for Lake County, Indiana, as the sheriff, just moving forward. But I would also expect at some point, and I would foster and help with the development, that the folks coming in that would like to be joined are considered as part of the posse, posse comitatus, or posse for my role as an interim, waiting to be properly elected, but as the interim sheriff. Also, the sheriff's deputies would be coming from the militia. So, there could be folks. I don't know, somebody from another county, wants collaboration, it can, the dynamics of the discussions from that point can morph into many different, take shape in many different ways. I just moved to Lake County, 13, 14 months. You see, somebody from another county, throw me another county out, 4 counties away or whatever.
Elkhart.
Okay, so I've touched base. I've held a couple of meetings, 2 or 3 meetings within the Jural Assembly in particular. I'm a Kentuckian, but I'm status corrected, moved to Indiana. Elkhart now, folks who are from that county say, hey, there's no traction here. I don't think I can take on this role as sheriff. I am considering moving, so perhaps I'll move to Lake County. So those are the kind of dynamics that take shape. Mm-hmm. There's definitely no stalling, especially when focus is on peacekeeping, and then focus where that peacekeeping comes from, where does it spawn from. It literally, absolutely spawns from the Jural Assembly. There's just no way around it. But I'm putting forth scenarios as how you would expect it to take shape, organically, properly at this point, and that's participation. Now, just to remove me, let's put Tom in that place. If Tom is there, that's more realistic. I'm not moving to Kentucky, but Tom may consider in 3-4 months of meetings. He's content with what developments are taking place, and he might throw his hat at exactly as I described for himself for that kind. Well, he would expect, okay, I'm starting to realize what's going on here, organically, lawfully, peacefully, properly. Sheriff's deputies are coming from here. High sheriff, which is the sheriff just below the sheriff. People who are from the militia who have skills and would be willing to serve under the sheriff as a special team, if that's the case, for such matters. People who would like to serve as Continental Marshals, like Deputy Continental Marshal. Typically there's 1 per county. But somebody on Lake County would say, hey, I've been learning about the international facet of peacekeeping, so perhaps I would like to, whoever, just name somebody who might want to serve as a Continental Marshal that assists that sheriff, Tom in this scenario, in the future. In that capacity is entered. And so things just start taking place. Not only that, but all of us who I just mentioned, everybody, myself as well, if I went and moved to Clark County, I would be part of the jury. And everybody all over the state, from the state assembly level, would be going into the Jural Assembly as a member of a jury pool. And they can be state national, of course. Once the Jural Assembly does take shape, where it has committees that help support it and drive its purpose, in this case a litigation committee, which we talked about a few days ago, right, Kimberly?
Yes.
This is where your courts start to take shape within the Jural Assembly. Other committees, like a safety committee, not a committee of safety, but a subordinate committee, which is called a safety committee, not a committee of safety. Yes, those semantics do matter. Of means without. A committee without safety. That's how that word deduces. I hate to say it, it's tragic. But yeah, so it would be a subordinate. In our world, learning our lessons from before, learning semantic deceit as it's placed into our notion and exploited, we know that this is not an executive committee. A true safety committee, check this out, you're gonna really like this. A true safety committee, as opposed to a wretched notion of what the Federation has emphasized regarding the safety, or committee of safety. Back in the day, committee of safety would say to themselves, all right, folks, we have this new federal government. If they ever go rogue to the point where we can't control them, we're going to pick up, quote unquote, or proverbial pitchforks and whatever else, blunt objects, along with our torches, and we're going to surround them, and we're going to subdue them, and they're going to be in fear. That's not what really is supposed to happen, actually. In a true safety committee, under contract, a true safety committee protects the rights of their subordinates. So they would keep their own weapons, as it would be, instruments of defense. And in a case where a safety committee needs to protect their infrastructure and the people who are serving them, they would announce, "We're coming to help. Coming to help. This is a true safety committee. We're not here to overthrow." That's what the agreement is there for. That's what due process is for. That's what recalling people out of office. True complaints, investigations, and jury investigations. These kinds of matters. The sheriff, letting the sheriff know, bringing forth evidences and having an investigation. All of that before any kind of idea or notion like enough's enough, or we're going to come to storm you. By the way, don't step out of line, or we're coming with pitch. That should never happen. A true safety. Again, a true safety committee defends our subordinates, those who are sovereigns themselves, who are trying to serve the people, and in any pitch moments or many moments have passed, and they just continue to be tomatoes thrown at them, or it's really going like today. A lot of it. Of course, what we have today is on a whole different level. But in the world of true attempts to serve the people, yet many things are faltering and many failures are taking place. Regardless, they're trying to do their best. They're trying to be transparent, and yet you have people from along the fringes are saying they're corrupt. They're corrupt. We're going to get our pitch. No, you're not. You're not going to get your. Well, because if you do, we're going to meet you there. If our governments, state, local and state, are honestly trying to assist, there is not going to be any uprising to halt that attempt. Does that make sense? I'm hoping I make some kind of clarity to that.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
That's a true safety committee, and that committee meets and provides information about their progress to their subordinates. They themselves are subordinates. Us, whoever would be in the Jural Assembly safety committee, would be providing to the Jural Assembly and adopted or putting forth to the General Assembly, wherever it's adopted, wherever you guys decide to. Typically, it'd be the General Assembly or the appeal or the assembly that the committee is driving. But they would have let everybody know. Like this is our good faith, honest, honorable, proper, lawful, peaceful effort in this type of committee. Truly, not hiding weapons, not caching weapons, not holding a finger up like you better do it. We tell you, we're going to come and storm. No, that's not what happened. That is not what happens in a true American service to the people. I mean, we protect our servants, right? Because they're not just servants. They're men and women. They're kings and queens in their own right. So that's the reason for that. So I'll just end it with this. This was placed in here purposely to show its pejorative or semantic deceit. So this will not be committee of safety, be the safety committee. And a safety committee is a subordinate. It is not a executive committee, as it was back a long time, decades ago. It was put forth as that. And think about this as well. Imagine if you were serving in the Jural Assembly, you were a justice, or justice of the peace, any part, if you were a part of any role as serving the people, like Kimberly is now, even at the Federation level. Let's say Tom as a county elected state sponsored sheriff. Would he sleep easy knowing that, too many moves in the wrong direction, accidentally, but attempting to correct the record? At some point, his own people in his own county or other counties is coming to storm his office or his home. That's ridiculous. That's not how Americans treat each other. We don't treat ourselves. We should strive to treat our servants. I guess it's really hard to describe it because they're sovereigns themselves. The sovereigns who are elected to serve the people. Truly being able to extend your hand and say thank you for your service, because you're extending your hand to a sovereign who has paused their life experience to serve other sovereigns, which is truly unique. Well, no one likes to think that the people have held a meeting that would, too many wrong moves without proper, uh, you know, um, what I mentioned before here, due process. No, we just had enough. Enough's enough. The term. Enough's enough. Due process. You're gonna come and storm my house. Come on now. So that's why even today's current de facto, they consider that a fearful or terroristic threat against them. So regardless if they're how they are and how fast they are, we know it's corrupt. But in many ways, the American people over the decades have slowly allowed it to happen. Well, still, they don't. We don't want to put that forward. So I just want to put that on the record somewhere. And so on the record here, yet again, if the word is getting out.
I'm glad you brought that up because I remember all that discussion back then, and so then of course it was being so fearful of it. But it's like, right now it's like, okay, yes, the semantics and the language. So yes, definitely, because we still have to have safety committees.
Yes, that's why I wanted to spend as much time as I need to, so you guys say, okay, we got it. There's at least between you two here.
And it's back to, for example, county of Lake as opposed to Lake County, of
Right.
how they were playing the semantics. So that's that reminder of, reverse it and then we're good.
Mhm.
We're reversing the spell on everything.
Yeah. So instead of Tom, if you don't mind me asking, what's your dad's name? First name.
Edward.
Okay, so instead of, all right, so now it's Edward. If I'm getting to know Tom, eventually I'm just going to call Tom Tom. Say, hey, Tom, what's up? He'll say, hey, Joe, what's up? It becomes that. Well, as we're getting to know each other, I'll know Tom as Tom Becker, right? But to show honor to himself and his family, it's not Tom Becker, it's Tom, son of Edward. So what they've done is they've taken this notion, a much more favorable notion of truly getting to know people by first name. They don't call Lake County. They'll say County of Lake, or they'll capitalize, or just do some way to take Lake County away from the people by doing it. It fits in every kind of function you can find. When you see that word exploited, the word of. Now my dad's name is James, and his dad's name is Curtis. So I'm Joseph, son of James, son of Curtis. That is how it's supposed to be from millennia, as far as I can tell, right? And it makes sense too, because I want to know now where my last name came from, where Tom's last name came from. Truly, where did it spawn from? When it was his dad, and his dad, differentiating Tom from any other Tom that's nearby, right? Tom, son of Edward, son of Biff, versus another right beside you, Tom, son of Edward, son of Sam. Oh, okay, so it's this, the two differences, and that's how it's supposed to be. This does play a role into that type of manipulation, where it simply is, even within the committees, and as long as it can be established and then moved on and just kind of buried, the semantic approach has been disrupted and has been obliterated within the assemblies, then they can move forward. And yes, there are types of committees. There's executive and there's subordinate committees, also known as subcommittees. A subcommittee is usually a committee under a main committee. Then you have joint committees, and since we have 4 pillars, we have pillars that will move parallel with each other, kind of cross the aisle and help facilitate however it's decided. Tom, you missed it, but it wasn't even provided. There is a recording for that discussion. I'm going to log out of here. I know we're going to be. I apologize for the disruption here. I've also lost battery power on that one. Yeah, no problem though. I mean, we're coming up on the hour.
Okay.
I wanted to just kind of really touch base on that mind map because it's way in depth. But once it's seen and discussed, maybe a few times, it should become common common knowledge too. And what I can do is I can open it up. The difficulties that we're having with Mind Manager is if you don't have Mind Manager, it's not an easy process successfully to share the entire map with you. Of course, you can draw it. You can draw one yourself. You can get another mind map software, and we can just kind of build off of that as we go. Or get Mind Manager, and then I guess we can send anything to you guys.
I'll check into it.
Okay. Sure. Christine, now, would you like to maybe, if you can, share with Tom what was discussed a few days ago prior to this meeting? So you can screen share what.
Okay, yes. Friday we met and we went over the. I think I have to go into my. Hold on. I have to turn this camera off a second so I can pull it up. Hold on. Because it's in emails for. And but I may have saved it. Hold on. Did I?
Oh, Christine's getting that, Tom. I tell you, I've been in this for 2.5 years. I don't know. You look familiar, Tom, a little bit, but I used to be the Kentucky state coordinator for about 10 months. But due to my previous military experience, I felt compelled to serve more in a traditional, the war that I'm used to, more of a recognizable role. So from the peacekeeping task force at that time, I guess early part of 2019, I transitioned from one federation service to another, and then served all 4 states within Postal Area 4. That's Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky, and just built up from there. So I don't know if I think I do recognize, but it's been a while since I've built a meeting with Indiana.
Yeah, I didn't become a member till an official state national till February 22, but I was diving into it, 9 months prior to that. So I was on a couple Zoom calls early on with Christine, learning the whole process and going through it. So I'm not sure. I don't recall seeing you, Joe, to be perfectly honest with you, but pleasure to meet you.
Okay, I've pulled up. I found the standard operating procedure.
Yes.
One. Hold on, let me screen share.
And it is, even what we've discussed so far and what the recording has captured, this is the perfect segue whether we continue for 20 more minutes under the mind map or not. Because at some point there has to be an intake. There has to be an effort to provide an operational function every step of the way. I mean, it is tedious, yes, there is paper trail, but it's not intrusive paperwork. It's a guideline to help everybody every step of the way. And especially with the standard operating procedures. Tom, I don't know if you served in the military, or if you've definitely worked in any organization that is proud of itself, I guess, of what it's offering. It has operational manuals, it has guidelines, it has procedures. So much so that, when it's ready and published, the intent is to basically be able to hand that operation, that SOP, standard operating procedure, to anybody, and that somebody can essentially perform a function fairly accurately. Of course, there's always room for error, but that's what the purpose of an operating procedure is. So, with the Jural Assembly in mind, you see on the screen, this is a segment of what the Kentucky Litigation Committee is working with for the Kentucky Jural Assembly. This is a 21-page excerpt, a scientific standard operating procedure, at least its function, that narrows in on precisely what would be the subsequent steps regarding the establishment of a Jural Assembly, the litigation committee in particular. Could be more, depending. Could be 5 precise committees within the Jural Assembly for Indiana, or even Kentucky later on, who knows, as well as, relationships across the pillars or joint committees, perhaps. It just depends on the dynamics. Whatever's taking shape, whatever harmonizes across each vertical pillar, and then as well as subordinate committees. Help me out, Christine. What do you think might happen? Just even what you may expect for the Indiana Jural Assembly's Indiana's litigation committee for its Jural Assembly. What do you think besides litigation do you think might help the litigation committee move forward?
Having those that are, and to be able to go into deeper investigation, whether it's the information coming in from Indianians to review their situation, as well as then those that are also monitoring what is actually going on Indiana and how we can be able to start making those corrections that would have to go through the Jural Assembly.
Yeah. Well,
my first thoughts, right. Anyway.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to foster, first thoughts. Because first thoughts usually is either way off or very, very close. So yes, investigation. Well, if the Jural Assembly is the focus here, do you recall what is tethered almost at the hip with the Jural Assembly, any Jural Assembly?
Militia.
So if a committee that's an executive committee, which means it is directly driving that assembly, if you can find a relationship, either it would be a joint venture, or it could be someone within the militia assembly, like of course in the future, that can assist, that can assist, expedite certain services. A committee drive that is dedicated to helping foster the forward progress of the Jural Assembly. It takes that tedious focus. That tedious focus takes dedication. It takes that precision. It doesn't take a whole lot of work necessarily, believe it or not. But a paper trail that can help reflect those efforts ends any, I guess, blinders or obscure. What do we do next? The standard operating procedure absolutely provides it. Okay. So we have an assembly. We know what the structures look like. We know that various committees drives those pillars forward, and then there's a relationship between committees traditionally that helps foster each other's progress wherever they're available. And then finally, we have a dire necessity for establishing operating procedure, because with that intent, there's very, very little room for error. There's all kinds of room for error minus operating procedure, every bit, in every way. Because that's naturally the case. Because if there's no guidelines to follow, then what does follow is chaos eventually. Every good idea is worth writing down.
Lots of notes.
You scroll down. Yeah, go ahead and just kindly scroll. Just slow down. Just want to show Tom, see if he has any ideas. You don't have to go terribly slow, or terribly fast, or slow. Just kind of good. And just like any SOP, it has its purposes, has various sections. I believe there's 12 sections, maybe more.
This is what I like about it, as well as the definitions given. So it gives you a clearer how that's supposed to work. What does that actually look like?
Right. How could it just, and as well, all committees are serviced this way. And even the committees themselves, it's not difficult. Once they're identified as needed, they're given a name. So you got litigation committee. They're limited, and what their purpose is, or the limitations are. And even those are modular. I mean, all committees I've ever heard of, and grew up with, and operated in the military, they fit the same exact structure. And there will be a chair or a leader. A reporter, not a recording secretary, but just someone who helps facilitate meetings, meetings of the mind. A treasury representative, not a secretary, but someone who can carry those details to the treasury and the treasury will already be aware that the litigation committee is needed. So it's not like there's no sidelining, there's no blind side or whatever. It's, there's no vague, what is this purpose? Regarding treasury, developments need to take place, and obviously that takes funding. So your state assemblies, treasury, even they'll have their own committee. The treasury committee will have their own committee. Where it fits in, I would say, just there's no written strict standard where committees go, but I'm sure the Indiana will have a treasury committee, right? Where does it go? Wherever you would like it to, wherever the people decide. Sounds to me like it maybe go into the business assembly. Who knows? But if there's and there will be a relationship, every committee will have a joint service to each other, especially when committees has a treasury representative. To say, well, we're requesting a $327,000 application to this function. Here's our analysis. Here's our breakdown. Here's our minutes. Here's everything that the people need to adopt or deny or suspend this service. And these are the kind of details. So, definition 3.0 regarding litigation committee will fit in the treasury committee. It'll fit. It'll fit in remedy and restitution. Christine, the other day I was trying to figure out what the other R word was for that. If you're dealing with Mochi, or if you're dealing with trying to find an approach for your counterparts on which county is your capital currently?
Marion for Indianapolis.
Right. And so it gets really fun once your Jural Assembly and your state assembly as a whole goes to your Indiana state capital and starts shaking hands and walking the talk and doing what is necessary to qualify for ex parte million. Because with that recognition also comes the fact that the Indianans need to get to work. And that helps to bolster the efforts, I guess, in the business assembly, again, perhaps business assembly, substantiating the need for restitution, remedy, in this case remedy, so that the folks who are offering to freely serve the Indianans, but first seek receive the recognition as a state citizen, so that they can receive, mutual offset credit exchange exemption, reversionary trust interest, Naval Agencies Distribution Act, and all of the others. There's 6 known remedies, but that's to help, get people recognized and serving people and moving forward. So
it'll make a difference. Getting that clarity, knowing what that means now, hopefully we'll start picking up interest to be able to get moving.
Absolutely. Well, and Christine, if you want to share this with Tom and everybody on the record or recording who has access to it, they can see that these are the kind of instruments that other assemblies are using. The one directed to your south, Kentucky, is absolutely using. This is just portions of this. This SOP is nearly complete. In order to help put forth the success, here are some of the weaknesses. Right here, if you want to go back up. These are some of the detailed criteria that was identified within the Jural Assembly from the beginning. Okay, so using SWOT analysis, we zero in on weaknesses first of the 4 main quadrants of the SWOT analysis. And we just, we start building product services and standard operating procedures, stepwise method of placing that into, which is the bottom lower section. You can scroll down regarding that section. It'll be, go ahead, you can keep going.
It's very thorough, I thought, of covering all the bases.
Yes, that's precisely the purpose. Yes, and yes, it is tedious, but let's face it, we
need that right now.
Something extremely, extremely important. Yes.
We need that right now because we don't have a path to follow in the first place. So we have to and then doing it enough, it'll then become part of we'll train ourselves into this new process.
Right, and just you can stop here just one moment if you can. Go back. So you can show Tom here. This is a fill. You can type where it says place data here or detail here. Just show this is a fill. Not only down at the bottom.
Oh, down here.
Below this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it gives
Just to
a
show-
box.
Yeah. Just to show this is.
Oh,
Oh, well, that's what it takes. Go ahead.
that's
no
what it does.
That's no problem. Well, I mean, if you have an Adobe, that's that because this can be signed as far as the lawful person.
Mhm. I'll come back to
SOPs
it while you're talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, SOPs are supposed to be. They follow a certain rotational emphasis and evaluation.
Mhm.
Those and myself as well. I have always the fulfillment is there. The buy-in is there. My efforts over almost 25 years in the military. I myself had a buy-in. It's a buy-in. It's an approach to help create SOPs.
Right.
I'm not a chief warrant officer, so I don't draw SOPs, but I follow them, and I've always had to follow them. Everybody has to follow them. So, but they ask for our participation, and we take some bit of ownership in our buy-in. We help shape SOPs when they're revised, so we follow all the steps. And regarding the Adobe SOP, Adobe Acrobat, having to have it, because one of the features is you can sign. See where it says signature here on the first?
Oh, over
And-
here, yeah.
Yeah, in an SOP, or at least the editing process, it is case sensitive. I mean, it's a sensitive document because of its potency and its effectiveness, and it cannot be changed without everybody knowing that any and all changes. Okay, so yeah, I don't know if you signed in, but right there, being that this is
No, I didn't
editable,
end up
obviously.
signing in. I just pulled it back up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Don't do it. So not only is this editable like any PDF is, but it's
And
also
yeah,
fillable.
you can see it gives you space
Yep.
to fill it in.
Yep. So it's So it's a fillable form like any form. The thing is that this precision of this particular 21-page instrument, it helps you to build precise SOPs, and it can pass as an SOP because there's a control mechanism. The updates and when it talks about everything about it. 21 pages isn't a lot in my mind. I mean, an operational guideline is many SOPs.
I've seen a few that were binders.
Yes, of course. That's what that is a conglomeration of many SOPs that all fit together. There's an organizational wide binder. Yeah, 3 big binders. 2. We've had them stacked together where there's multiple ones. 1, 3-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch, 1-inch, and typically an SOP is really small. I mean, it doesn't have to be extreme. And this 21-page, this particular approach should cover everything, every part of every aspect of each development. Go ahead, if you will, go down just a bit further. More of the details of who's participating. It moves into risk. It's right here.
Yeah, I like this too.
Yeah, it places a numeric value on what is critical. Talks about its the frequency of what is anticipated regarding things that may happen with what you're focusing on. So a hazard assessment. If you notice in 6.0, there was I think 8 hazards that were identified or weaknesses. Well, each one can have its own matrix, and it can go to that level. What happens is you'll notice the people that's in your committee are engulfed in focusing on those things only, instead of having just a broad array of what are we doing here. You know how bewildering that is. It's just to even think, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Let people get in a committee, settle in, dig in, crack their knuckles, focus on a certain thing, and move forward, because they know part of their structure is they have a time frame. They don't have to make it 100%, but once they get used to what it's like to be in a driving force within an assembly, they're going to feel very gratified that they've done their level best to help not tear down or make it as obscure, like what are we doing here? What are we doing here? They know exactly what people in the litigation, for example, or any other people.
We should
They'll know
see
exactly.
the structure.
Yeah. They'll enjoy it.
Any house, you should be able to see. You should see the structure is there.
So if you would, Christine, send that to Tom and see what he's. I mean, instead of continue to.
I can put it in the chat right now too.
If you can do that.
Were
See
you
if
able
Tom
to
can
get
actually
that,
pull
Tom?
Yeah, I'll grab it right now.
Okay.
Very good. Tom, can you confirm if you can even access that like Christine is illustrating?
Yeah, I got it on the chat right now. I can see everything.
Okay. Now, can you are you able to insert anything in, or do you have to sign into Adobe?
I don't know. I didn't try and open this link yet, but I copied it.
Okay. Is there any way you can confirm if you can actually just at least visualize it?
Yeah, I'm not very good on a computer, actually.
Yeah, we're just trying. Well, we appreciate that because if you're able to, then Christine in the future calls can share the same file in the same manner. We can at least confirm that everybody else who receives it can see it, at least see it.
And I'll include the link in the presentation stuff to add to it. So for the follow-up recording.
Okay, while Tom's doing that.
Yeah, I got it.
Got it?
I put it up on a different window.
Okay.
Awesome. And you can see it. Okay.
I can see. Yep, I got it.
Perfect. So Christine, for future reference, at least what Tom may have, because you may not have a subscription to Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat. If you have a subscription, which typically is a monthly subscription, just so everybody knows, it's a nominal rate of cost, but very useful, especially for a chairman or anybody who's a supporting member, because you can edit your shareable forms.
All right, I'll be working on that, getting that set up in the next
like
day or two here.
$23 a month or something. But you have it now. Then you have access, especially with PDF Editor Pro. Then you can utilize signature.
Okay.
And if we're in an organization, we're lawful persons, I should say. So we're transitioning from, at least in the moment, out of the, you know how it is. We're supposed to have we're sovereign men and women, but we're serving the people. So now we put certain things down. We put our autograph down.
Right.
Moving the signature. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to put my name right to it because I was a participant with that. It needs to be there too.
Now, and here's what I don't know, Christine, if you recall this, and for Tom, in the committee, and I don't know how many, did you have 92 on the list for RSVP?
Yes.
Well, that's okay. Now, in a committee, the structure has it that supporting members can be American state citizens, obviously, but they don't have to be elected. The only one that needs to be elected, or should be elected, which flies in the face of current assembly speakers, is that the people elect chairs within their committee, not the assembly speaker. That's the exploitation of the de facto, is that the speaker of the assembly, they themselves appoint chairs. Can you envision an exploitation of a system where a speaker, however they earn that role, that then goes in and fills their committees with their selection of chairs? And you see how that could just right off the top, this be exploited. That's how the de facto services itself for its own convenience, as opposed to the assemblies. Hey, this is a very important role for a Jural Assembly speaker. Okay, election. For committees who drive the assemblies, the chair, okay, election. Always try to attempt to. It's always great practice to place those opportunities for adoption of what committees put forth, and the leaders who are helping to drive those committees. Have the people elect those people who step forward, to serve in those roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And that gives, because then when they're elected, and then they need to be answering to those that elect the people that elected them, and not just thinking that they're answering to the committee. you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And there is a usefulness for compartmentalization. That word has been, given a bad rap as well. Because think about it. If people, well, I'm going to go back to the part of the committee supporting members.
Okay.
Can you go back up?
Yep.
It's
I'm getting there.
3.0. 3.0. Right there. Notice here, Tom, as well. Supporting member. Okay, and that's me. I serve on the Federation on behalf of the Continental Marshal Service and the Peacekeeping Task Force in the interim. So there's other stuff. So I'm directing the Peacekeeping Task Force as best I can. But my first love and motivation is with the Continental Marshal Service. Okay, so I'm a Federation officer. So how could I, if knowing that I'm a national, I can't serve in any other, I can't have that purpose. Cannot be a Kentuckian as a state citizen. Just can't do it right now. But where can I be as a national, based on what we just expressed earlier, defined, as a supporting member in any committee? You'll notice that state nationals, and obviously state citizens, but state national, can be a supporting member. We're appointed, just like treasury reps, just like reporters. The difference between a treasury representative and a reporter is they cover down for the chair if they're not available. So you have contingencies for reports that's sent up to the assembly. The chair's vacation, sick, confirmed, whatever the case, retired, abruptly, whatever. They're in arbitration, they're not available, just whatever. Automatically, in succession, you have a reporter, and you have that could cover down for the report, 3 to 5 plus 3 minutes, total 8 minutes for a report. A very anticipated report, The assemblies are about ready to adopt something that's really going to change their assemblies forward progress for the better. What if the reporter's not available? Treasury representative. Well, the only one that was elected for the entire committee or any committee, in any assembly, is the chair. See that? But the supporting members, they don't report. They can be state citizens or national, and they have an election power only inside the committee. You see that? So committees, they drive ideas, products, and services, but they certainly don't. They don't have the capability to force anything onto the assembly. They just present what they're working on, and have met that deadline as best they could to the assembly for adoption. Consideration for adoption. So it is just magnificent. I mean, the detail on this type of compartmentalization is as it should be, in my opinion, and in my experience. And then you have people that, if you have, 92 as mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Tom and myself, or Tom and Christine right now are the only one present, but who knows, for whatever good reason or another, why there's only Tom and myself here, Christine. But when the people find out, wait a minute, I could serve and really focus in on all of these different drivers, they might find one area only that they have a true passion for and experience. But they're waiting for the committee to create itself and leadership to run it so they can join, I hope that makes some logic, work there.
Yes, definitely. And again, it's a path. It's a process we can actually follow and stay within being Americans, as opposed to easily slipping over to old programming from de facto world.
Yeah, and it's I guess you could call it a track, like a railroad track, I guess. It's narrow, it's consistent, it's forward, it's moving. The only deviation at this point is how much you want to pull along those tracks. Well, this simple 21-page outline as an instrument to help build a very stellar operating procedure is really going the distance, okay, for a lot of assemblies, and Kentucky being one of them. So the whole purpose of these first couple of meetings is just kind of break the ice. Whoever is attending, whoever gets to replay and would like to contribute by joining 2 weeks from now and every other 2 weeks, and just sink their teeth into this approach and just have fun. But if it's been established, at least in the eyes of the Indiana Assembly leadership and Tom here, is where to go after having corrected one status. If the Jural Assembly is the first stop along the way, and then perhaps in many ways, logically, the militia assembly, however it may be, in this scenario we talked about Tom entertaining the sheriff. The sheriff like, okay, so how many people do we have would be like to be a deputy sheriff, or even just are there? They're just correct, It goes in every direction beyond that.
So I got a question for you. This standard operating procedure that I'm looking at, is it pretty much cover every committee? Is this specific just to the Jural Assembly and wording, or could this be a template for all the assemblies?
Yes, Tom,
assembly.
Yes, the section here, as you see right now, Christina has scrolled through section 9, and now she's on subsection 9, or section 9, subsection 2, subsection 1.1. Every one of the sections can facilitate every single facet of any committee. All that needs to be changed are the focus of each stepwise. They're called stepwise. One word, stepwise. Each step 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the focus.
And that starts from that SWOT analysis.
Yep.
To be able to pull that.
Can you go up to 9 to help answer Tom's question better? Go back just to 9, right there. Nope. Go to, because we stopped at 9.2.1. So this is a section, however many, from 1 to however many. Section 9.0, configuration management, fits any assembly. Right there where she's highlighted, you can place your committee right there, the name. You don't even put it there. At the top, when you fill out the very first page, that auto-shows.
Right.
To remind those, we're talking about Remedy and Restitution, or Remedy Restitution Committee, or Safety Committee, or whatever, Special Weapons and Tactics if it's within the militia, or First Responders if it's within the militia, or International Business, whatever. And really have fun with trying to name a committee, because that is part of the requirements of a committee. Is literally the familiarization with the committee is naming it. Then placing it where it needs to be to drive, to churn, to move forward. Its limitations are typically modular, and these sections within this SOP builder is modular. So you wouldn't have to change 9.0. Go back at one more time. There would be no need to change 9.0 configuration management.
Right, because the form would even fill in, because you already gave the name.
What usually what changes is the field section.
Yeah,
right there's one.
Blocks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now you can continue down to the. Yeah, go back. Then you're going down. 9.1, number 2, number 2.1, number 2.2. Now you're going to 10. Same thing. Operational instruction, perfectly modular. Describe using the amount of detail necessary to ensure standard operation. The steps required to operate functions covered by the SOP. For attachments, exhibits, diagrams, pictures, checklists, etc. So on and so forth. For stepwise activities, again, stepwise is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And Christine just handed this over to Tom. Tom said, yeah, I'll chair the such and such committee within the Jural Assembly for external peacekeepers, sheriff, and just start to really just envelop that whole notion. If she had it, she'd say, well, here's the manual that we have currently. Here's the SOP we have currently. I have 14 steps in there, which we can go down here in the bottom, see where those would be. And then Tom would build off of that. Simple. Yep. Now that you have it, Tom, you can see. Now right here, one time. Right there, this section right here, where it says use the following. Nope, down. Use the following page and attach additional pages as necessary to completely describe the process. Here's where the stepwise goes in. And if you had 3 pages worth of information to go there, the font will shrink down to facilitate that digital capture. If you try to print it out, it might be difficult to capture that stepwise. But this is the very heart of any SOP. It's the stepwise, the guidelines. Okay, so if it's small and you're only focusing on one weakness, which this SOP builder was focusing on, is jury pool qualification, then only the stepwise for that particular focus would need to go in this section right here. And that's one product, one service for the Kentucky Jural Assembly through the Kentucky Litigation Committee that is focusing on, which is this particular 21 pages is only focusing on that. Because let's say the Litigation Committee for the Kentucky litigation is focusing and has 21 days to put forth a method to help assure that the Jural Assembly is very aware of what needs to happen regarding jury qualification. And that is a process. The justice is responsible for qualifying the juror. They don't have to vet them, but they do have to qualify them so that there's no conflict of interest. At the same time, they're responsible for attempting to properly protect their security or their identity. They can't hide their face, of course, but they can definitely do their part to keep their names and where they live confidential. Those are the traditional means for justice, and so that could go right into this section. Not only this one, but the one below it. So it's a really short. I mean, there could be 30 steps in there. That's what that would be.
That was another part that I appreciate and value from the SOP is that it helps to keep a time frame so that it doesn't just drop off.
Linger, yeah, squat. That's the same thing with the chair. That's another role of the chair. Is squatters who and if the committee's purpose and intent is what it is, then that chair, then they know what their role is, and part of their role is to make sure that there's at least an odd number of maintained member support. Even if there is no member support, there's 3 people who are seated: the chair, single, quarter single, and the treasurer rep single. There's already at least 3 that should be in a committee before that committee can open its doors. So there's already an odd number. If they get another member support, that's fine. But you know what? It's been 4 of us for 3 weeks. Supporting member, you're going to have to forego your election at this point. That's fine. We couldn't have done it without you, but we have to put forth an election power of 3. Right? See how that makes sense? And that will that's defined. That's typical. If a chair realizes those 7 things or 5 things they need to maintain, including asking squatters to leave, asking a product that they've been focusing on to be placed on the back burner because they had a 3-week time frame and now it's 6 weeks later and they haven't moved. That assembly is asking, hey, what can we do? What can we do? So again, that's the buy-in. That's the satisfaction of knowing that people who cannot serve in any other elected capacity, they don't need any limelight. They can't get out of their home for whatever reason. Why there is least or as much support within the assemblies as it is, I can't really tell you. But when the assemblies realize how can we work together in a really concise manner through the committees. I don't even have to be elected. I don't have to go through that whole hum. I can just, I can be a national. I can remain a national. Yes. But yes, there are roles where state elections, citizens, Indianans do need to take that role. In this case, a chairperson. And that's the only one, who has to be elected. So, and with that too, if you have 12 to 17 or however many eventually dedicated citizens, they can cover down. They'll just realize they'll be having considerable meetings. They will be getting their hands dirty. They will be busy, and that's a hard thing to cultivate. Yes, but if it's where it's focused and it's dropped into an assembly, it's placed boundaries, a name, title, purpose, a team through the committees. I've seen much success in continual pattern of participation when there is a standardized approach to everything.
Yeah. Then there's no room for questioning others as to, well, why are you doing it that way? That's what's right here.
Right. Okay, so if you would just quick down to the bottom there, Christine, because I know we're running on time, and I usually try to keep it concise. Do we have 90 minutes carved out or set
Yeah,
aside?
we're good.
All right, I got a few moments. So if you would go, and now we know that Tom has, at least is able to view it. So if you just go all the way to the bottom, and now in section 6.0 is where we captured our weaknesses. Did I also send you, I don't think I did send you the spreadsheet for capturing criteria. I showed it, but I didn't capture it.
I don't think on that one, no.
Okay. Okay, that's good right there. That's the only exhibit I've added here. So Tom, for any organization where the SALT, it will utilize a SWOT analysis. There's just no real way for any legitimate, serious organization to succeed without analyzing itself within and without. Okay, so this is business 101, really. You're probably already aware of this. But what we wanted to focus on, since these are budding organizations and new committees and people who may be novice to the approach, we didn't attempt to try to analyze all of these criteria simultaneously as a rotational approach. We wanted to focus on what is typically prevalent in a new and vulnerable organization is by narrowing it on the weaknesses. And so you see, and then of course each one has their own approach to internal factors, external factors. So if you would, and the last thing I'll discuss for now, to press on time, if you'll go back to 6.0, keep weaknesses in mind. Okay, right here. Yeah. Okay, hazards equals weaknesses according to our SWOT analysis. And we wanted to focus on weaknesses first and then help to foster strengths and opportunities subsequently. So each one of these weaknesses you'll see is a separate product or service. I mean, they're uniquely separate in every way. They're synonymous. They fit within the Jural Assembly, but this committee would be very busy in this case, and they would attempt to set a time frame on how they could come up with ideas to help mitigate, marginalize, remove these prospect weaknesses. And that's the chair, everybody participating, bringing forth ideas that they anticipate to be notional or obvious as weaknesses. So you have this one, these three, these 8 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 separate situations. This essentially then would be 8 separate SOPs. Unless, of course, if there's a way for any of these others to work together in the stepwise approach to reduce, marginalize, remove, or otherwise, defeat these potential weaknesses. If 2 or more, 1 or more could fit in a stepwise approach, then that would be those many less SOPs for these weaknesses. See what I mean? Well, I hope that makes sense. It's as the first meeting here, and with just Tom here right now, but Christine, it takes more of an approach and more meetings. But yeah, this is what we're working with. And really, there's nothing else, at least initially, to have to focus on, except for the weaknesses, and that's just our approach. Me as a supporting member for the litigation committee, Kentucky Assembly's Jural Assembly. And the chair, he agrees, Shannon, Rose, and said, yeah, of course, it seems logical that, we have a brand new justice who is learning the ropes. One of the first thing a justice would be to count other county justices of the peace was to know you're going to have to qualify your jurors. Do they know the defendant or the plaintiff? Oh, you do? Well, how well? Are you able to participate? Are there any hardships for you taking part in the trial jury? Those kinds of things. All of those things that your own research and development team will discover about what a true jury should be provided in the process of them providing justice. As part of the juries. So And that's the role of the justice. It's not the role of the county clerk to qualify jurors. And do they have to be vetted? No. And all of those are great questions. None should be scoffed at or marginalized themselves. All great questions. And that's what happens in the committee. Everything about everything is hashed out and aligned properly and put forth, waiting to be adopted. All within the committee, all to the assembly. So that's all I have, folks.
So, Joe, I got one question for you. On your one breakout of the different jurals, everything that jumped out at me was the marshal at arms. So, where does the marshal at arms come into play for our state assembly? Obviously, every assembly you want a marshal at arms, but it starts off with the state assembly, correct?
Yes, everything starts at the state assembly now that we're having to go and combining ourselves the way we were bound, and with the aspects of propping up the state assembly first. It has to start with the state, and then all of the pillars from there. Subsequently, though, and this is something we're working with, but to answer your question concisely, is yes, the marshal at arms within the Jural Assembly, state elected, that's the only state elected role. Marshal at arms. All the other marshals at arms for every other pillar typically would be one. Traditionally, in our time, it's two. They're appointed. But there's one state elected marshal at arms, and they are couched within the Jural Assembly. Great question. I don't think we covered that, Christine, but yes, that's part of one of your two internal peacekeepers. The other is the Ombudsman Service. What's so widely important about the Ombudsman Service is they also dub as the arbiter for those who are accused and have evidence that for substantiate criminal malfeasance, but just short of a trial jury, they can settle out of court. And that's usually done by your Ombudsman Service.
Because I've been on some of the marshal at arms calls and trying to learn. So I'd like to become one, actually. And I didn't know if you could just do a county or you got to go state first and then you can trickle down to your county. So I it's still a learning process for me, but that's something I'm interested in for sure. And I think that's one of the main pillars that we need for an officer in our assembly.
Fantastic, and it is. Christine's probably jumping up and down in her head.
I know.
Absolutely. You're going to join your company because we're talking about the Jural Assembly, and that is the place where the only elected marshal at arms is. That's their home. Everything spawns within internal peacekeeping from the marshal at arms within the Jural Assembly. Absolutely.
That's what my understanding was. I thought that's what it was. So, never in the service, never, in the police force or anything like that. So, I really don't have any kind of training, but I'm willing to learn. Where do I go for this information and this training that I need to do to become a marshal at arms?
Now, I think you're going to enjoy this. It's a little bit of hot potato, I guess, I would say. But, Tom, until you are elected, I can help you, of course. But to keep to where everybody's in the loop, including yourself, as it would be, I would share everything with you through Christine so that Christine can have that ownership as well, that buy-in, and that she can get more familiar with you. But then as you become when you do become the state elected Jural Assembly Marshal at Arms, there's only one, then I talk to only you regarding, because now you're elected, you're in that position, and Christine can continue to move further, ever so slowly back. That's what she's supposed to do, right? And she's happy with that. You're one dedicated woman. I don't know if there's a rarity of truly dedicated people out there like that, Christine. So great job to you.
All for the creator.
That's right. And there are two so there's a meeting every other week, just like right now there's a meeting every other week regarding Indiana's Jural Assembly meetings. But there's a nationwide call for are with militia, with martial arms, and the Continental Marshals. There's two types of meetings, but both are held every other week. There's a bridge call, that's between the cousinry of the Continental Marshals and the Marshals at Arms. And then there's an education call that anybody can join. So what I'll do is I'll send everything to Christine regarding that meeting, and then you can join, and even Christine can join at this time. You guys can both just get familiar with that as it is and enjoy the development. And it's a great development. I know a good amount of marshals are.
I think I reached out to somebody at the Marshal of Arms, David. I forget his last name, but he gave me the information and the links, and I'm not sure if I was supposed to be on that first call. I think it's the first one of the month, first week and the third week, and I think the third week is the educational call. But I always got on the first one, and did a roll call and told them I was from Indiana. And I don't know if they thought I was the Marshal of Arms or what. I was just gotten on there just to learn. So, and I did talk to the guy that's running it, through emails and stuff like that, because I did.
Christopher Snyder.
So, yeah, and there's another one, David, I think is
David Feister on Washington County.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know these men and women very well, and they get along great because they're really focused on their role, and they've been meeting for, I want to say 6 months now, nationwide. So they're rocking and rolling. Their harmony is just growing, and not only theirs for themselves as marshals at arms, but also the Continental Marshal. And you'll notice there's two different functions taking place. There are definitely peacekeepers, of which there's 5. There's 3 primarily dedicated to external, 1 having its own assembly, that's the militia assembly, and then there's 2 dedicated and only 2 internal peacekeepers. And they're just off the charts important. Marshal at Arms and the Ombudsman Service. They're like, you can't get any, except for the sheriff, if you want to try to embrace the sovereignty of the county, there's really no other true peculiar only peacekeeper. And that's just somebody out in the field, chewing on a wheat leaf and, patting their saddle on their horse, whatever, however romantic you want it. And that would be the sheriff. But when it comes to assembly matters, marble floors, nice environment, truly professional, dedicated, and proud Americans, the Marshal at Arms runs that show, and the thankless job regarding the Ombudsman Service behind the scenes, in between, and dealing with conflict resolution, those are your only 2 pieces. But when you meet, you'll have the opportunity to meet along with other curious assemblies who are, a couple of steps behind you, Indiana, with regards to this meeting. Believe it or not, there are some assemblies who don't yet have a Marshal at Arms even on the radar. But most of them do. I would say, 31 maybe, I think, established. But they meet with themselves. They discuss many, many things. You'll be really happy to jump in when you do on our next meeting if you decide. And just move in with your election process. You can start building your SOP. You can work with them. They've already started their SOP process. It's a different format than what I've just shared with you, but it's a great effort.
Yeah, I mean, Christine knows she's got all my stuff. I'm vetted. I don't think I'm vetted through the federal because I haven't got contacted, but I'm got my background check and all that, so I'm all good that way. So let's go with it.
Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, Christine, I'll send you all of the links that I have. Tom says he did speak with Christopher Snyder in Colorado, who's running the networking, and David Feister, who moderates. He's out at the Washington Assembly. Both great guys.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no problem.
Okay.
We're happy to have you. For
Sounds
me, I'm
good.
happy to have you because that's another state in Area 4 that's covering down for a Marshal at Arms.
Yeah,
The Marshal at Arms
people.
Right?
The Marshal at Arms knows everything about the assembly. They are the ones that. Let me give you this final example. If Christine ever had to step away from the assembly, let's just say, Tom, you've been in for, as long as you have been plus 1 day, however many days, that's the Marshal at Arms. If Christine had to step away, she had no other co-coordinators to help, it would fall to you and in perfectly capable hands to help with that transition. And when she retires, finally, it falls to the speakers of each of the 4 pillars, ran by the Jural Assembly, or at least maintained, by the Jural Assembly's martial arts and your deputies than the other 3 pillars. Same with the counties. It's exactly the same structure, exactly. And then, Christine, you will be able to retire. Probably throw your hat in as the Indiana delegate. We'll see you in Pennsylvania one day.
Well, there's other things I want to do, but with doing this, I'm not able to even get into that, into other areas, because I want to get into the press and as well. There's many other things I want to get involved with, but I do want to get involved with the Jural Assembly as well. It is a passion, but it has to be. I can't really get into 2 places at once right now. I have to focus on getting this aspect, and then if the Lord wants me to move forward in that aspect, the path will be made for me. So that's what I go with.
Yeah, it seems to be getting around the water crew that a lot of the state coordinators entertaining the idea of, I could be a state delegate. Maybe.
I know, we were like,
all right, guys, come on, let's do this right. Let's continue on. Let's do this, and then, it's a really great opportunity. I remember that back when I first started. That'd be a possibility. We don't have mayors. We have governors. I'll be a delegate from a state. Yeah. It's really funny. And it's great, because, coordinators would go somewhere. I'm sure they're not going to just put in all the work to helping protect and
then
the assembly.
Literally sunset.
Yeah, I'm literally leaving now. All right, people. So there we go. That's
awesome.
A great meeting.
That is awesome news. Thank you, Tom. That was great to hear. So I should start working to put together a ballot of sorts to start sending out, right?
Sure.
Okay. The sooner we can get things rolling, you've got all the other groundwork already done. We know.
We've already confirmed all of that. So yeah, we can go ahead and move forward. I'll put it on the agenda for next Monday for the General Assembly / militia. I'll put it on that to say that you've stepped up to want to be put on the ballot for martial at arms, and then state that then the vote can take place in 2 weeks, but we do it through an email process, things like that. So at least that first one coming up, this Monday coming up, be the announcing that you've stepped up and would like to be placed on the ballot, and then in 2 weeks after have a election. That's fine by me. Just seems awful quick. Like I said, this is all new to me. I don't have any knowledge of what that entails.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to get a little bit of.
I'm moving forward on that aspect so that you can also then start connecting more one-on-one with Joe to get that.
Okay.
Deeper training.
Christine, I just put it forward the nomination.
You're putting forward the nomination, okay?
No, is that no? That's what we're setting up.
Oh, so yes, that's what we'll do is putting it forward in Monday for this very next Monday coming up. This for the general.
Not the election, just the nomination.
Right. Have it as the nomination on the 7th through the. No, it's still because right now the General Assembly are the only ones that can actually, because we don't have enough in the Jural, so it has to go through the General at this point, and then.
Tom, but even excuse me.
Go ahead.
But even Christine, you or both can join the education call every 2 weeks with the martial arts. And I
Yeah, we'll talk about that more later than about setting up of getting the, we can at least do on the next one, at least put the nomination forward to give, at least bringing it forward. And then, and we can definitely then, and you, of course, as you already have, already start getting into the calls and.
Well, but even still, you either one or both are still able to attend, just to kind of peer in, because of course it's not anything exclusive beyond that. They would prefer not just anybody
Right.
be on those calls, because then they have dozens and dozens who have no
Right.
true aim other than just general interest. But yeah, and just let me know when, Tom, when you want to attend, and I'll help highlight your preliminary interest and watch what happens. Usually it's a lot of participation, a lot of graphics, a lot of discussion. In the last meeting that I wasn't able to attend, I was on a family vacation. But they were going over their SOP, their breakdown.
Yep. I think I was on one.
It was really, really thorough. Woman on Idaho, I think, is the one that helped put that together.
Yeah, I think she's this martial arms secretary or something. She does a lot of stuff behind the scenes for that committee or for the martial arms. I forget her name, but
yeah, I think the Federation vetted her a year or so ago, and I think she's an educator.
Yeah,
that's what she does. Her job.
She puts out a lot of information on those calls.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, then we'll talk later, Tom, about working out getting you put on the ballot, or at least getting the nomination put forward first. We'll work that out when you feel more comfortable on moving forward on that aspect.
Yep.
Okay. Sound good?
So, going back to the assembly calls, for some reason I'm not getting those links to the Zoom assembly. It's only through the
same
YouTube
email, same setup I did for this.
Okay. For some reason, I don't know. I wasn't getting them, but
okay.
I'll look for them in my junk folder or something.
Okay.
Either there, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments before we come to a close?
No, that's it for me, Indiana. Thank you all for the opportunity to meet with you every other week regarding Jural Assembly and Militia Assembly developments. And should be fun.
Awesome. We thank you for committing to us. We greatly appreciate that. And so we will be adjourning then until, for this call is for August the 14th at 6, because next week's call will be the General Assembly sash. I've combined General and Militia. This is Jural and Militia because they're intertwined. So, and then that way, so the 14th for this call for Jural Assembly is now to adjourn until the 14th at 6 p.m. Central. And I thank you all and have a lovely evening. Peace and love.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. See ya. Bye.
Recording stopped.